Okay, we're going to go over the exercises for section 4. And first exercises were section 4.1. And 4.1, you were to identify basically the four terms: the quantifier, the subject, the copula, and the predicate. And I'm doing the ones that don't have the answers at the back of the book. For number 2, the quantifier is no. The subject is stressful jobs. The copula is are, and the predicate is occupations conducive to a healthy lifestyle. Number 3, the quantifier is all. The subject is oil-based paints. The copula is are, and the predicate is products that contribute to photochemical smog. For number 5, the quantifier is all. The subject is trials in which confession, blah, blah, blah. And the copula is are not, and the predicate is trials in which a guilty verdict can be overturned. So that's the predicate. Number 6, the quantifier is some. The subject is artificial hearts. The predicate, or the copula, is are, and the predicate is mechanisms that are prone to failure. And 8, the quantifier is some. The subject is universities that emphasize research. The copula is are not, and the predicate is institutions that overlook undergraduate research or teaching. Okay, on to 4.2. There are four sections on this page. The first one is each of the following: identify the categorical propositions, the letter name, and then the subject and predicate terms of each. And then also whether it's the quality, right? So, and quantity. So the quantity would be either universal or particular. So no and all is universal, and some is particular. And the quality is if it says no or are not, then it's negative. If it says all or are, then it's affirmative. So number 2, it's an O-type proposition. The predicate is distributed, and it is an affirmative universal. Number 6, it's an E-type. Yeah, 6 is an E-type. Subject and predicate are distributed. Actually, no, 2. That's a mistake. This should say subject is just. No, that's right. Predicate is distributed. 6, E-type, subject and predicate are distributed. 8 is O-type, predicate is distributed, and 8 is it's a particular quantity and negative quality. And for section 2, you change the quality but not the quantity of the following statements. So if we look at number 2, it says no wildlife refuges are locations suitable for condominiums. So we're just changing the quality, so it stays a universal. So it goes from negative to being affirmative. So it goes from no wildlife refuges to all wildlife refuges. Number 2, in the next section, we change the quantity but not the quality. So it would go from universal to particular or particular universal. So in this case, no tax proposals that favor the rich are fair proposals. So it would then go from some tax proposals that favor the rich are not fair proposals, right? Because we're maintaining the same quality. So this should have are not here. So some tax proposals that favor the rich are not fair proposals. And number 2, in section 4, we're supposed to change the quality and quantity. So we have number 2, no alcoholics are people with a healthy diet. So if we're changing the quantity, we go from universal to particular, and the quality would go from negative to affirmative. So that would then be some alcoholics are people with a healthy diet. Okay. 4.3. Okay, we have in this section we're to draw Venn diagrams for the various statements here, and then answer the various questions. So draw Venn diagrams for the following propositions. So number 3, Some political campaigns are mere attempts to discredit opponents. So we'd have the subject political campaigns on the left, and the predicate mere attempts to discredit opponents would be the predicate circle on the right. Some political campaigns are mere attempts to discredit opponents, so you would have an X in the overlap between the two circles in the middle section. Number 5. All redistricting plans are sources of controversy. So the subject is redistricting plans, and the predicate is sources of controversy. And the only redistricting plans are plans that are sources of controversy. So the section on the left would have nothing in it, so it'll be shaded on the left-hand section. Section 2, number 3. There's all trial lawyers are people with stressful jobs. So that would end up with a circle, trial lawyers subject, circle on the left, stressful jobs, circle on the right. There is an empty left section, okay? And therefore, some trial lawyers are people with stressful jobs. We would have an X in the middle section there. So if you look at the difference between the two, there is, in the universal, it assumes that whatever trial lawyers there are would be in that middle section. From the Aristotelian point of view, since trial lawyers exist, it's valid. But from the Boolean standpoint, we can't infer a particular from a universal. So it's invalid from the Boolean standpoint. 5, if we draw these out, and you have to do the square of opposition to get to restate the it is false into its contradictory, and you end up with the first proposition being 2 circles with an X in the middle section, and the second proposition being 2 circles with an X in the left-hand side of the drawing, and that's not the same, and so it's invalid. Number 9, I will discuss in the next slide. 11, you will also draw that out, and you will find that the first proposition has a shaded in the middle section. The second proposition has an X in the left, so these are not the same, and so you end up with it being invalid. And number 15, I'll also discuss on the next slide. So we'll go do the next slide right now. Okay, I'm going to do 9 and 15 because I think they're both very helpful to clarify some of the things that we've been talking about. So number 9 reads, it is false that some stunt pilots are not colorful daredevils. So let's do number 9. So let's use S for stunt pilots and C for colorful daredevils. So what this is saying, it is false that some colorful daredevils, so that's some colorful stunt pilots are not colorful daredevils, right? But it's false, so it's the negation of some C are not, some S are not C. And the negation of that is it's an odd type. You go to the modern square of opposition, and basically that the opposition or the contradiction is all S are C. So this is the first statement, all S are C. The second statement is, it is false that some stunt pilots are colorful daredevils. So some S are C. Now this is false, and now this is an I type, if you look at the modern square of opposition. And the contradiction of that, right, since it says it's false, is no SRC. Okay, so now let's draw these two in Venn diagrams. So all SRC, so that means where S and C don't overlap, it's empty. And the next one is no SRC. So where S and C overlap, it's empty. So these are not saying the same thing. So this is not invalid. If these were colored and pictured in the same way, then we could say it was a valid argument, but it's not. So number 9 is invalid. Let's go to number 15. 15 says it is, start 15 here. It says it is false that some chocolate soufflés are desserts containing olives.
So some chocolate souffles are desserts containing olives, but that's false. So we're getting the negation or contradiction of that, which is no CRD. Okay. And then the second claim is it is false that all chocolate souffles are desserts containing olives. So all CRD. The contradiction of this is some C are not D. Okay, so let's draw these out. Some C, or no C are D, so where C and D overlap, it's empty. And here is C and D. Some C are not D, so we have some C that's not D. Well, again, these are two very different drawings. It's not saying the same thing, so it's not a valid argument. So 15 is also invalid. So I hope this gives you a good idea of how these questions work.
Okay, now moving on to section 4.4. This is using conversion, aversion, contraposition, that chapter. So 4.4, we're supposed to fill in the blanks. And so in section 1, I'll do 3, 5, and 9. 3, it's no A or B, and its truth value is false. Number 5, it's some B are not non-A, its truth value is undetermined. Number 9, it's using conversion to get that statement, and its truth value is undetermined, right? If it's not the contradiction where we know what the truth value would be, then it's undetermined. And number 11, it's contraposition, and the truth value is true. Okay. Now section 3. Number 3, use conversion, aversion, and contraposition to determine whether the following arguments are valid or invalid. For those that are invalid, name the fallacy committed. So number 3 is valid, and it's basically using contraposition to get from one to the other, and so it is valid. Number 5 is valid. If you were to use Venn diagrams, you could draw it out and see that you get the same results. And you can use whatever is going to help you get to the answer as you go through these problems. Number 9, it's invalid. No promise is made under duress or enforceable contracts. It uses what's called illicit contraposition, right? It's not one of the forms of contraposition that preserves the truth value, so it's not valid. And number 11 is valid. It's using the conversion of the I type in a correct way. And number 15 is invalid. It doesn't use conversion in the correct way. Okay, so that's that for those. And the last homework assignment was for section 4.6. We skipped 4.5. We don't need to worry about any more translations. So section 1, basically you do the 2 Venn diagrams again to see if you end up with the same drawings to determine whether they're valid or not. So number 3, you have an X in the middle section, so it's valid. Number 5, you do not. You have an X in the middle section, and then on the other one you have a shaded left section, so it's invalid. Number 9, it's invalid. You have an X in the left section on the first one, and then a shaded middle section for the second one. So the conclusions don't follow. For the second section, used Venn diagrams to determine if the following immediate inferences are valid from the Boolean standpoint, valid from the Aristotelian standpoint, or invalid. So number 3 is invalid. because it commits the existential fallacy from both the Aristotelian and Boolean, right? It says no lamps containing genies are ordinary sources of light. Therefore, some lamps containing genies are not ordinary sources of light. There are not lamps containing genies, so that's why it commits the existential fallacy from even the Aristotelian point of view. Number 5, it's invalid because we have a shaded left section and a shaded middle section, so we have 2 different Venn diagrams, so we don't have a conclusion that is valid. Number 9, it's valid. Both end up with X in the middle section. Number 11, we have it's valid from the Aristotelian perspective, since we do have gardens that feature a skunk weed. That is something that exists. So since that exists, it's valid from the Aristotelian point of view, but it's invalid from, or commits the existential fallacy from the Boolean standpoint. So we have an X in the left-hand section, but to keep the Aristotelian point of view in mind, that X is often circled to say it's a conditional X, conditional on whether it actually exists or not. But Boolean, remember, we cannot infer the existence of anything from a universal, and so it's not valid from the Boolean. And 15 is invalid. We end up with the left section is X in the left section for the first statement and the shaded middle section for the second statement. All right, that's it for this section. Now we're going to move on in the next section and start talking about categorical syllogisms.